Thank you, Senator Tillis, for that kind introduction. Chairman Takano, Chairman Tester, Ranking Members Bost and Moran. In a normal setting, I'd like to ask members of the American Legion Family Leadership Team to rise and be recognized at this time. But this, of course, is not a normal setting. I would like to acknowledge some of those who are in the studio with me today, viewing this session online or attending virtually. With me today are the American Legion Auxiliary National President Nicole Clapp and Sons of the American Legion National Commander Clint Bolt. Also participating virtually are the national officers serving with me during this unprecedented second term, American Legion past national commanders, and importantly, I want to recognize the wartime veterans of our organization across the country and around the world viewing this online, who are dedicated to their mission as Veterans Strengthening America. It's again a great honor to bring to you and your distinguished Committee on Veterans Affairs the legislative priorities of the nation's largest veterans service organization. We deeply appreciate the alliance we have with Congress, especially now as we all turn a corner, united in a shared commitment to help lead this nation out of the dark year behind us. On the same day I presented our 2020 legislative priorities in this forum a year ago, COVID-19 was declared a global pandemic. The American Legion Post would be forced to close their buildings and in the days and months ahead. Many of our wartime veteran members lost their jobs. Some lost businesses or their homes. Many of us lost loved ones, colleagues, and or friends to COVID-19 or its effects, both physical and psychological. But the American Legion family does not lose focus on the mission at hand, nor did we lose faith in our ability to strengthen America at a time of great uncertainty and stress. As COVID-related obstacles confronted us, our members went to work confronting them head on. Our Buddy Check program reached out and found tens of thousands of isolated veterans and their families who needed food, medication, transportation, voting assistance, mental health checks, and most important, a compassionate voice during a tough and confusing time. When our friends at the American Red Cross were in urgent need of donors and collection sites last spring, we sanitized our posts, opened the doors, rolled up our sleeves, and gave our own blood in record numbers. When face masks and other protective gear were in short supply, the American Legion family found them, made them, raised money to buy them for others, and distributed them wherever they were needed in the hundreds of thousands. Our members fed the hungry when grocery shelves were empty and restaurants were closed. We protected homeless veterans who were especially vulnerable to infection. We set up virtual gatherings, led virtual career fairs, testified in virtual congressional hearings, participated in virtual town hall meetings to help veterans understand their benefits in the time of COVID. And we worked with the VA and Phillips to launch Project Atlas that uses American Legion Post to offer veterans safe, private places to have virtual online appointments with their health care professionals, no matter how far away they are or how difficult it might be to reach them in person. We paid respects to the fallen, wished happy birthday to World War II veterans through drive-by parades, handed out care packages for quarantined troops, and gave small business support wherever and however we could, all while social distancing. None of these operations replaced the American Legion's priorities for Congress, the White House, or the Pentagon, but these operations amplified them. Among our top priorities for the 117th Congress, you'll find the term peer support. Success of the American Legion Buddy Check program since it was introduced in 2019 and grew in importance during the pandemic can and should be made a cornerstone of VA outreach. We call on Congress to reintroduce the Buddy Check Week bill of 2020 to designate 1 week a year for VA as a time for laser-focused peer wellness outreach. After 2020, we in the American Legion know just how important Buddy Checks are for a veteran's mental health, emotional stability, and dignity. We also asked for the reintroduction of the PFC Joseph P. Dwyer Peer Support Program Act that would attach trained peer support specialists to local American Legion posts. There's no better way or place to find veterans in need or people willing to and wanting to help those veterans. Both of these measures stand to save veterans' lives, now being lost at too high a rate to suicide. Peer support programs can put faces, voices, and real circumstances behind the people we seek to help, veterans with PTSD or TBI, those who've been victims of military sexual assault, caregivers, and the rapidly growing number of women veterans who want nothing more than fair treatment and quality gender-specific services from their VA healthcare facilities. We're deeply concerned about the reported high incidence of sexual harassment from male staff and patients at VA healthcare facilities toward women veterans. As we testified last summer, we call on Congress to direct VA to tolerate no sexual harassment and to foster a culture of safety, dignity, accessibility, and acceptance of all veterans. There can be no barriers to VA health care, especially during this time of COVID-19. Insufficient staffing or staff behavior that repels such use of VA can be such barriers. The need to recruit and retain VA healthcare providers, doctors and nurses, mental health counselors, and practitioners who specialize in the needs of women cannot have been more acute during the COVID-19 pandemic. Resources were stretched dangerously thin as beds filled during the year. Overburdened as they were, VA providers have stood strong. We all owe those doctors, nurses, and specialists our deepest appreciation for their timeless and continuing devotion. I call them the infantry in our war against the coronavirus. We have always known about the quality of VA care and the dedication of its providers, but we also know these providers are too few in number, especially in the nursing disciplines, which became such a great need in 2020. If VA is not right-sized for normal operations, it certainly can't hold up forever during a pandemic. It's a credit to those dedicated professionals that an American Legion survey last spring of more than 24,000 respondents revealed that some 90% of veterans were somewhat or fully confident in VA's ability to handle the pandemic. Unfortunately, that high-quality VA care is not accessible to enough veterans in the best of times. In the worst of times, access is almost impossible for veterans in remote areas that lack broadband services, or those closer to home who need to inch through traffic to reach facilities where in-person appointments are curtailed and overbooked. We all have work to do if we truly intend to efficiently connect veterans, especially in rural areas where care is difficult to reach with the VA services they earn and deserve. The initial steps taken last year in the area of telehealth need to become giant strides in the months and years ahead. The American Legion is proud to be on the forefront of this through Project Atlas. Post 176 in Springfield, Virginia, now has its telehealth station open and ready for safe, convenient use for VA patients. Telemedicine took on new meaning and urgency during the pandemic. The Washington, D.C. VA Med Center and others around the country have been offering telehealth appointments as an alternative to in-person care, including VA Video Connect appointments into the veterans' homes. That's all well and good as long as the veteran has the right computer and internet connection to take advantage of it. For many of our nation's older veterans, that's just not a reality. That's why Project Atlas is so important. This month, we will be opening a new location at American Legion Post 12 in Wickenburg, Arizona. And due to a recent decommissioning of a VA outpatient clinic, a third Project Atlas site will soon open at American Legion Post 5 in Emporia, Kansas. Future sites in Ohio and West Virginia are coming soon. Government accountability for toxic exposure during military service has been a legislative priority of the American Legion for decades. To secure due relief for veterans exposed to atomic radiation, Agent Orange, and other contaminants. As COVID-19 proved especially dangerous for people with respiratory issues and cancers, the American Legion's call for accountability to veterans exposed to burn pits and now those who were exposed to a contaminated base in Uzbekistan, known as K2, is especially urgent. The pandemic also amplified our shared mission to help veterans who have sworn with their lives to protect our nation, effectively use their GI Bill benefits without worrying about bad actors at profit-driven institutions that milk the system through the so-called 90-10 loophole, which needs to be closed. We appreciate the fact that it was recommended as part of the coronavirus relief package because there is certainly a connection to the pandemic. But if closing the 90-10 loophole needs to stand alone as a separate measure, Congress has our support. The American Legion's legislative priorities for this Congress also include reopening the pathway to U.S. citizenship for immigrants who served in our armed forces, protecting members of the U.S. Coast Guard in the event of a government shutdown, insisting that the federal government reduce its dependence on foreign suppliers, not just for jobs that it would create for veterans and other Americans, but as a matter of public health and national security. And our renewed call for a constitutional amendment that would allow states to pass and enforce laws to protect the U.S. flag from deliberate acts of desecration. The flag of our nation is the single most recognizable symbol of American unity. The pandemic, turmoil over racial injustice last summer, the storming of the U.S. Capitol in January, veterans struggling along and isolated at risk of self-harm, it all adds up to a profound need for unity and priorities that strive to make our nation stronger, safer, and hopeful. That the lessons we've learned over the last year will help us fulfill a pledge I have been sending to the American Legion throughout my tenure as National Commander to build a foundation for the future. Be happy to take any questions you may have for me or our Commission Chairman and National Staff, sir.